Today's the yahrzeit of the Ramak, Rav Moshe Cordovero, who was one of the biggest Mekubalim. He was a Talmud of the Beis Yosef, the Talmud of Shlomo Kabitz. And he also wrote a very famous sefer called the Tomer Devar. Tomer Devar goes through the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because we are supposed to emulate the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Satmar Rebbe said, in the name of the Reb Chaim Tzanzerov, that learning Tomer Devar is a secret refuah for the machla hayidu. That's what the Satmar Rebbe said from Chaim Tzanzer. It's also the It's also the yahrzeit of my mashgiach, the mashgiach of Philadelphia, Ram Galambek. The only stories I can remember about him are funny ones, so I'm going to withhold them at this point. But he was my mashgiach, and he was a very elachid, and he's in the Shalom should have an aliyah. I was just telling you, the only stories I have about the mashgiach are funny. I don't know if they're appropriate for his yahrzeit, so I'll have to withhold them for now. He was a very, very special man. So I'm back on Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, and we're at the Ahuda Amar. Ahuda Amar Lechavrei. Someone told his friend, "My boss Bayar, take a hike. You're in my land." Amarlei Minoch Zavante Zavnis. I bought it from you. V'achaltiya Shnei Chazaka, and I was there without any macha for the years of chazaka, a minimum of 3 years. But he was asked to bring Adam to prove that he was there for 3 years. So Aisi Chatzahada the Ochla Tlashni. He only was able to find one aid to testify on his behalf. So we're in a little bit of a limbo, because on the one hand, we can't establish that he's the owner of the property, because we only have one aid for the chazaka. We have an Eid Echad that claims he was there for 3 years and he's not owner of the property. Well, then maybe he should pay for the payers that he ate for the 3 years. So the Rabbanon weren't sure how to process this shiloh. Savar Rabbanon Kamed Abaye. At first they thought to compare this to a case that there was a famous case, Lememer Hainu Nascho de Rav Abba. This is the case of the ingot of silver that someone seized from another person. So let's just quickly have a peek into the Rashbam. It has a similarity. They were not trying to learn and apply what Rab Abba told us, and apply to this Shiloh. The mills of the Pshitahi Sheyishalim Akar. It's no doubt here that surely he has to return to Karka. He doesn't have 2 Edim verifying his chazaka. There, he told him to give back the Nas. Here, of course, he wouldn't say that. Here, of course, he has to give back the property. Inami, or maybe you could say, is peri imar. So it can be, at first the Rashbam assumes it's to address how to deal with the land. But that, the Rashbam says, we don't really need anything to compare it to. Push it over here, give back the land. Or maybe the comparison was in reference to how to deal with the payers, peri imara, because the Abba Kamish is Edim Dochal Payers. It's as if he has Edim Dochal Payers. And therefore, he should have to pay for the payers. The Beloy Edim, if there is no Edim that said that he ate any payers, Loy Mahadri payers, I wouldn't have to pay back the payers unless you could prove that I actually ate the payers. In the case of Rab Nachman before, we had to have a raya that in fact the Machzik ate the payers, otherwise you can't force him to pay them.
What raya did he have?
1/8 said that he ate the payers.
1/8.
So that's a very good point. That's a very good point. The 1/8 isn't saying that you owe payers. If you listen to the 1/8, it's his property, right? That's what you're asking. Yeah, but I ate my payers. I might do that I ate my pairs because if I ate pairs for 3 years, in fact, they're mine. So if you listen to the Eid Echad, give him the property. If you don't listen to him, you shouldn't pay for the pairs. So we're sort of in an interesting scenario. So what was the case of Nascha de Rava? The Hukaver, the Chot of Nascha Mechavre. So let's say Reuven grabbed the silver ingot from Shimon. Also Lakamed Rabami. They came in front of Rabami. Have a Yosy Rab Abba Kamei. And Rab Abba was sitting in front of Rabami. Now, if you read the Gemara as is, it would sound like Rabami was the Rebbe, he was the Paisik. Rab Abba was a Talmud sitting in front of him. Tosfos brings down a big discussion as to what was the case over here. Who was the Rebbe? And who wasn't the Rebbe? Oh, it's not over here. So where's Tosfos on Baal? Where does Tosfos discuss? Let's start right over here. I know I saw Tosfos about who was whose Rebbe. Not sure why. I cannot find it now. I do not know. Oh, it's over here. It's a number out. It's a number out. So it says Mashma Rab Abba Talmidei Shorabami. And Tosfos that's cautious. It seems like it's not the case. So Tosfos has to say, what does Tosfos answer? Sometimes you could call him a Rebbe, even though he's a Talmud. Tosfos struggles with that. Anyway, so Yosef Rab Abba Kamei, I see Chat Sahada. So Shimon bought 1 aid, the micht of Chat from him. That Reuven chopped away the silver ingot from him. Omerlei, so they turned to Reuven. They said, Reuven, there's an aid that's that you seized this from Shimon. What's your explanation for that? Omerlei in Chatfi. I did. It's aid are correct. I'm not contradicting the aid. But it was mine. It wasn't his. Omer Rabami. So Rabami said, Hechi Nidaini Lahaidina. How should the Dayanim approach this Shiloh over here? Lishalem. So look to Rishbam. She'ilu Hayu Shnayim Eden Noise Shachatav. Why is this such an unusual case? Because 3 things could have happened that wouldn't have been a Shiloh. This thing that happened is very unusual. If you had 2 Eidim who said that Reuven chopped this Naska from Shimon, then the now we wouldn't ask any questions. We will just tell Reuven, give it back. I'm not nemon to take something that we know was in your hands and claim that it was mine. I have to have Eidim that can prove that this object was mine. Otherwise, the assumption is, if it's in Shimon's hand, if the Naska is in Shimon's hand, it belongs to Shimon. The Hamid Mammon al Chazkasa, because the Mammon, the Naska, will remain in the Chazak of Shimon if Shimon is the Muchzik. V'zah Muchzik boy, ein Adam Yachal lo yitziyah mimenu b'lo yirayah. So if that would have happened, if there was 2 Eidim, there would have been no Shaila here. V'achoytif mimenu gazlan gomer. And we treat someone who scraps something away from somebody else as a regular Goslin. So Reuven would have just been a Goslin, and we would have forced him to give it back. Or what if there was no Eidim at all? Where Shimon just told Bezdin that Reuven chopped away my silver, and Reuven responded, there we would for sure believe Reuven. Why? Migu, the have a boy, have a amr loichatvi. He could have said, I never took anything from him at all. He could have denied the whole thing. So Migu, that he could have denied the whole thing, if he says, in fact, that I did grab it from Shimon, but it was always mine, again, you believe him. Right now, Reuven is the muhsik on the silver. Inami, or ki ikachad, if there's 1 aid, he sticks in the word if Reuben's argument was I did not grab it away, then he could swear to directly contradict the Eid. The Eid echad kamul shvua. That's what an Eid echad is mechayiv. It's mechayiv, a response with the shvua. If any one of these three things would have occurred, there would have been no shayla. But now we're stuck. So I think what I'm saying is not that they weren't Talmidei Chacham. Any case could have happened, they would have known exactly what to do. But this is such an unusual situation. Now they're struggling with what to do. So let's see what the Gemara says, and we'll learn the Rishpam. Lishalem, to make him pay, lekatrei sahadik, as Rashi, as the Rishpam says. Lishalem da moed shechataf, v'loi kol heimenu shel choytef loimer shalichatavti tamid b'menachas kosoi. We know that you go to the Musa, and therefore he has no nemonis to say it was his. He can't, because lekatrei sahadik the chotaf. He doesn't have to aid him that he was choytef. He could have said lechatafti, and he would have believed if he would have sworn. So maybe he should be believed to say didichatfi. Live to say, oh, he has a migo, so let him be potter and gantin. The problem is there's a shvua owing. There is an aid that says that he was choytev. The Rashi lepatri mishum hai migu igachat zahada. Even if he said lechatvi, have a boy yishtabu lakvish aid. So therefore, here he has to swear. Lishtabo, to ask him to swear that he didn't chap it. Omar michtav chatva. The chivun the Omar the chatva, once he admits that he's took it, have a like a gazlan. So you're going to think it means, oh, he's a gazlan, he's not neman, that's why he can't swear. No, it just means that he can't swear because he's not able to swear to contradict the hate. He's only able to swear that it was his. So as far as swearing is concerned, he's just as disqualified as a gazlan would be disqualified. Let's see what the Rishbam says. The shtava is a shvua. Sha'ed mechayvoi eino yochel. Why the moidi dechataf v'ed mechayve lishava shaloicha lakrish ha'eid. The only shvua that the Eidechel is mechayvim is to directly contradict it. That's how we see from the Pasuk. It says, in other words, an Eidechel cannot compel the Shalom Amen. But the Eidechel could create a chiyuv for this accused to make a shvua, only to directly contradict the aid. Because by hach shvua, lagabe di shvua, pasul luke gazlan, it's a kol shvuas. Just like a gazlan is pasul to make any shvua because he doesn't have them on us, so too this person in this instance is part of her making the shvua because the last leila meimar the shtabi, you can't tell him to swear the didei chataf that it was his, which is his taina. She'ein zu shvua hamutelos halah. That is not the shvua that's demanded of him. And to say he's potter without any type of shvua, because he messed up the migo a little bit. Because there's a shvua here required. So we're in a stuck position. So therefore, Omar Rababa have a mechuyev shvua. We look at him like he has a chiyev shvua to respond to the Eidechel. But he cannot swear because of this technicality. Any person who's mechuyev shvua and he's unable to make the shvua for whatever reason, he has to pay. Let's see what the Rishbam says. Amor Rababa, Havalai Hai Choytev, Hakanami, so too Ikal Meimar Ki Hagam. So therefore, Zok the Rishbam, just like by the case of Naska, since he's in an unusual position, he owes a shvua, but he can't make the shvua. Therefore, he has to pay. So too, in our case, with our people, with our machzik, who only has one aid. If he had two Adam, that said he ate him for 3 years. Oh, thank you. Then mukmin in the law, then the lakeach would get it, and there's no question of payers, because we see that in fact he was eating the pears of his own field all along. If we have no idim at all, then mafkinan lo minai, we take the property away from him, umadrinan lamor, and you give it back to the owner. If there's 1 day that he ate it 3 years, which is what happened here, lishtava, he has to swear. He has to swear to contradict the eight. The eidechad l'shvuka. Afilu lo have a karka, lo mashbin le amad asid tzahada. Now here, we know there's a rule, ein nishboyin al karkos. You don't swear for karka. But let's put that aside for a second. Even if this wasn't the question of karka, he couldn't possibly swear about what the aid says, because the loikaferle, elamoidle, to the contrary, he's not denying what the aid echad said. He's fully agreeing with what the aid said. Elamoidle the achal, v'toin in achli v'didiachli. So what is he supposed to do? Therefore, he's got to give back the land and he'll have to pay for the payers. That was the suggestion that the Gemara said it should be doimel to the same way Rab Abba reacted to the Shaila of Nasr. So Abaye said, no. We cannot compare this to the case of Nasr to Rab Abba at all. Because of what Moti said. Midami. Hasam Sahada Leruyakos. The eighth testimony, Reuven chapped this Nasr away from Shimon, that is to the detriment of Reuven, and that's Mechayev Reuven in response to pay back. And I'll prove it to you. Because if there were 2 Eidim saying this same testimony, it would be Mechayev unequivocally, Reuven to give it back. So the Eid is mourning from this Reuven. The Eid's creating a Chiv on Reuven, therefore he has to swear. But here, if you listen to the Eid, he doesn't have to pay anything at all. If you're going to listen to the Eid that he actually ate their payers for 3 years, so that you wouldn't be mechayev him to pay the payers. Adrabah, he would get the whole field. Because so therefore, this is not a case of mishalem. Because for Keret, there the Eid Echad is being mechayev himself. There's even a big shaila in by the Rosh Hashivas, in the Lomdus, by the Achrayim, is when an Eid Echad is mechayev a shvua, is it also his chayev of monis? You have to pay mammon, but if you could swear, you get out of it. Or it's a shvua de but whatever it is, it's creating a liability, a responsibility on Reuven. But here, the Eid Echad is not putting any chiyuv onto the machzik. Fakeret, it's pulling the field towards the ownership of the machzik. So therefore, idamya, if you want to compare a case to the case of Nascha de Rab Abba, idamya, how the Rab Abba would be doing into a case of chad sahada. There's 1 aid, but the aid said ulatartishni, that the aid says that he only ate 2 years and not 3. Now that's an aid who's coming to be mechayev. His testimony, if 2 people said that testimony that he only ate from the pairs to the field for 2 years, that would for sure be mechayev to give back the pairs. So if you have 1 aid that says he was there for 2 years, ulaperi, and this discussion of the pairs, the land for sure goes back. The discussion is on whether or not the machzik has to pay back the pairs. That would be doima to the case of Gavaltik. Let us see the Rashbam. Omar le Abaye, mi domi le Rababa. Can you possibly compare this to the case of Rababa? Possibly Rababa, hahu chat sahada le iruye le chaytev kaas. He's coming to work against Reuven, who took the silver. The Hamasid Beishachata. They're saying it that he chapped away someone else's property. Now the migu de chaytev is very bad because he can no longer say lechatfi, lechatafti. Therefore, mechayev shvua. He's mechayev the chaytev. We're calling him Reuven shvua. Mutar shelo yochel lishava mishal. The ilu also chat sahado shemeid kemoisai shereu shechataf. If there was a second aid that would join this first aid and say that Reuven chapped it, surely mafkina laminei the chaytev. We would take it away from the chaytev. Even if he would be able to swear, his shvua wouldn't help because he cannot swear connected to him. But Achabit in Karkazeh, who Siada Lasui de Vekasi. The Eid Echad is claiming that there was a full chazaka, which helps the machzik. He made kehichtik ba shalishana v'zachaba. If there would have been two Eidim, that would have been a dream for the machzik, because then Mina lebiyad the machzik, and surely he gets all the pairs as well. V'heich toimar. So how could you say shal yad Eid zeh through this Eid, whose testimony is actually supporting the machzik, yischayev shvua, that should be mechayev meshvua the pairs. The testimony of the aid is to the benefit of the machzik, not to the detriment. That he has to give the karka back because he has no proof that he bought it, because he doesn't have to aid him to testify on the chazaka. But the aid should be mechayevim. To the contrary, the testimony of the aid is actually working to the benefit of the machzik. Ella idamya lenascha derababa. You see, the Rashbam sticks it in. The Rashbam sticks some bears. We're not looking for a case that's similar to our case. We're looking for a case that you can compare to nascha derababa. Is lechatzada ulatat nishnin ulaperi. Because Reuven the tova l'shimon. Reuven went to Shimon and said, "Amalei gazalta la'oi, you stole my property. V'yachalta peirososh nasayim, and you ate 2 years worth of property worth of peiros for my field that you're illegally occupied. Yamalei Shimon zavant in the heli, you sold it to me. But last l'shimon ed chazak. The Shimon does not have edim of a chazak of 3 years. He only has 2 years, right? The dinahu, there's 1/8 for 2 years. The dinahu lahaduri ara lamara, he would have to give back the land. Be given the less late chazak, since he can't prove a chazaka. Uleperi, what about the payers? Mishtaba the bezvine achlasina. He could swear that he ate them because of the deal. So of course, I really spoke too soon. In this first scenario, where the Rashbam is painting, there's no Edom at all. Rather, he had Edom that there was no Edom at all. Rather, the Tevei Reuben claimed Shimon stole his land. Shimon said, "I bought it. I don't have a chazaka." So migui that I could have said I didn't eat any pears, I'm believed to say that the pears that I ate were my pears. The kaim along hapesh also who hit. Even though the even though the halacha is I have to give the land back. So my tiny that I ate the pears that ate are mine because the land was mine, that doesn't hold. I'm still mechuyev to give the land back, but still peri le mahader. I won't have to give back the pears if you only know that I ate the pears because I'm admitting to. The leka sahadi da'achal pears, because there are no edim that will independently prove that this machzik ate the pears. And therefore, migu di yachal meimar lo yachli klal. Since I could claim I never ate any pears, yachal meimar nami achli bezvini. I could say yes, I ate them, but I ate them because I claim I own this property, and therefore v'les le'oleh shavua. It would only be a shavua of a koy for a koy. Avalika sahadi the achal peri tartan shnim. But if there were edim that said that he ate pears for 2 years and not more, then mechayvin le'lahadure. Then you would make him pay back to the original owner the value of the pears that he ate. Afilu peri. Kirav nachman damar hadra arav hadra peri. But I say Reuben. But what happened here is Reuben brought chat sahada the achal peri, but only tartan shnim. We're going to make it shaloyachal ki im beishan. Right. The whole point here is that this aid is not contributing to the proof that Shimon owns the field. So therefore, the aid says he only ate 2 years, meaning there's for sure no chazaka. The lav l'siyuye l'Shimon cost. And Shimon said, "In achli, I did eat pears for 2 years, but v'didi achli, but I ate my own pears. Shekonisi akaka ve'apears. Efes, unfortunately, loydnis harti b'shtori. I wasn't careful to keep my star, and now I'm stuck over here. Hahu the ikal l'dmui l'draba. This is very similar in its characteristics to the case of Rabba. Darminan heichel l'dainu dainu l'adina. Nechayve la'dure peri. If you want to be mechayev Shimon to pay back the payers for the 2 years, lekatrei sadi de'achlinu. There are not 2 edim that claim that he ate them. V'mishum da'idi. And if you want to tiny, he's moida hatan v'amar d'diachli. But he's claiming that the property is his. That's not considered a haidah to be mechayev. Nifterei b'migui. that he could have said, I didn't eat the pears. We have one at least that says that he ate pears for 2 years. He won't be able to swear falsely. So he has to swear outside echad. The other value, if there would be 2 edim, he would have to pay for the pears. So I make a shvua, but he can't. If you are denying what the Erechad is saying, and you're directly contradicting his testimony, that's when you have the din of a shvua of Erechad. But he's tining the diachli. Therefore, Havalei Mechuyev Shua, it makes this person who ate the pears into a Mechuyev Shua, Veinalach Yishava, and therefore Mashalim. Kach Nira Shitazu Be'enai, Veshuv Mitzasiya Bepir Sharach. That's what they said. Okay. The Kaimelon, who do we pass like? The Hakar Bava, Midiyolaf Abaye Minay, since Abaye learned from him halacha, where Abaye compared his case to a different case. So you see, Abaye is applying Rabba's logic to a different case. That proves that we pass like him. The Peligi Alei Rabbu Shmuel Perikon L'Shpoin. And this is where it gets complicated because it's Rabba who said, since there's a shvua incumbent on you to swear, you can't swear, therefore you have to pay. But Rav and Shmuel seem to argue on what Rabba says. The Amri, they said, if you can't swear, you don't say since we tell you. No, we say you don't swear. And so they would have argued on this psak, and that's what the long Tosfos is about. Maybe they could agree. What if there was a malva and a loiva, and both the malva passed away and the loiva passed away? So the children of the malva don't know if it was paid back. The children of the loiva don't know whether it's paid back. They will have to swear. They'll have to make a shvua to be able to collect. What does that mean? What would you swear? Rav Shmuel Dharma Tevayu Loy Shanu El Shemeis Malva B'Chaya Loy. If the malva died before the loiva, and therefore there was never a chiyuv on the malva to swear bebridos that the money is still owed, then we'll let the Yisoimim collect with a shvua, not that they know for sure the money is still owed, but they could swear that as far as they're concerned, they never heard that it was paid back. That's much less of a bridos. But they could only get away with such a shvua if there was never a real shvua that already became incumbent upon the malva to make, because the malva died before the loiva. But if the loiva died first, so right away now the malva knows that he cannot collect unless he swears that he had not yet collected. And therefore, he has to be able to swear with certainty that I never got paid. When he dies, in other words, mammon, whenever there's a mammon that you're entitled to, but you're only entitled to it if you swear, you could not be morish dat levanav. So the Yisoimim could never collect from the Yisoimim b'shvua unless the malva died first. Because if the loiva died first, then the children of the malva would never have yarshin the chayv. Alma, what do you see from here? The malva became a chuyev of shvua before he can collect from the Yisoimim that he has to swear with certainty, I was not paid for this chayv. The Yisoimim ein yachol lishavakei. They can't provide such a solid shvua. All they could swear is Ela Shaloi Pikdenu Abba. Our father never told us. We never saw any proof or any reason to believe that it was paid back. That's not the shvua that the father had to make. The father had a much more sure shvua he had to make. And the Yisoimim can't make such a shvua. So therefore, and the Gam Yisoimim Shaloiva, Ein Yechon Lishava Sheparu Aviyah. The Yisoimim Shaloiva can't swear either that they know for sure that their father paid back. So there, Ka'ami Rabbi Shmuel Shalo Yifra, There, Rabbi Shmuel says that you don't have to pay. You don't pay. It's not mishal. Unlike what Rabbi Abba said. Neither one has to pay. If neither one can pay, if Loiza can swear, then Svir Rabbi Shmuel Chazra Shmuel Sinai. The Shavua just goes back to Sinai, and we can no longer demand the Shavua of anybody. Vein kan loy Shavua v'loy Purai. Rabbi Abba Palagalayu, you'll have to say that Rabbi Abba argues. V'amar Yorshin Ishboin Shavus Yorshin. I think it's Rabbi Lozer actually in the sugi of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Lozer Palagalayu v'amar Yorshin Ishboin Shavus Yorshin. The Noitlin, they swear to Shavus Yorshin that we never saw any evidence or any reason to even suspect that our father might have received payment. The Gemara said over there, so it seems like the Gemara didn't paskin was surely again like you said, whatever you paskin will be acceptable. Nevertheless, Dr. Rashbam over here, even though the Gemara there didn't resolve who we paskin like, here it's clear that your halacha like Rabba, not like Rabbi Shmuel. Even Rabbi Shmuel's halacha, Dr. Rashbam, where we say there's no payment, that applies only exclusively to the discussion of Rabbi Shmuel, which was a discussion of Yosy. Also, takana shlo lahosef al divei Rabbi Shmuel lilmod midin zed Yosyim and Yosyim l'shardina. Even though Rabbi Shmuel said Chazra Shmuel Sinai and no one pays, that was exclusively said by Rabbi Shmuel in respect to a discussion of Yosyim. The loimer Chazra Shmuel Sinai. The bedin zelavada the Yosyim and Yosyim would come along to Rabbi Shmuel, but the evet mishum takanos Yosyim b'nei loiva. We're making a takana on behalf of the Yosyim, the children of the loiva. The chasin and alayu shloi parmehen below shvul al yos. We protect them that we will not allow any collection to occur from them unless there's a solid shvul. Abba Bashar didn't come along to Rabba, so I really didn't say it clearly. I said that Rabbi Shmuel didn't say that Allah only by Yosyim, but Rosh Ram is saying Rabbi Shmuel said that Allah everywhere. But the Gemara there only passes like Rabbi Shmuel by Yosyim to protect the Yosyim. But otherwise we pass like Rabba. Tosfos has a lot more complicated way of slicing this up. Gewaltig. Sagt Gemara weiter. Hahu Arba. So you know Dr. Henry, what's his name from the Aldaf? Henry Abramson. So he says, what does this Arba look like? There's a very famous boat. It's called Yoshka's boat. Why is it called Yoshka's boat? Because in 1986, there was a very big drought in Eretz Yisrael, and the level of Kinneret was very, very low. And there were two Jewish fishermen from Eden saw some pieces of wood sticking up out of the water. When they got close, they saw that it was an ancient boat that's dated to anywhere between 50 AD and about 100 CE. So it's right around when Yoshka lived. So it was a boat from that period of time. But it wasn't, I mean, who knows, it was Yoshka's boat. The Christians get very excited about it. When you go on the Christian tour of Eretz Yisrael, one of the places they take you is to the museum that's in a place called Genoisar, which is on the shore of Kinneret. They have this boat preserved, but this boat was preserved because it was under the mud for all these years, and it took them like 12 years to be able to display it because it was soft like cardboard. So how are they going to salvage it? So first they dug around it, then they sprayed it with spray foam, so it was like encased in spray foam. Then it floated. They took it to the shore. They dipped it into a certain type of wax, glycol, for I think it was 11 years. They dipped it in till it was like fully absorbed and had enough strength. And now they have it on display. It's a boat that can hold about 15 people, probably about as long as this room. And that was a boat. That was a boat from the Titan, from the Gemara, of what this boat could have looked like. So who arba? Now the mitzvah Allah. So he was talking about this boat. So I actually looked it up. Boat from the Kinneret. And it's the best way to search it is under Yoshka's boat. And you see it on display. And there's a lot of videos that show how they actually got it out of the water. And the Christian, they're all on Christian channels. This was probably the Yoshka's boat that the wise men went sailing with Yoshka. I don't know my New Testament good, but it stems very good with their New Testament. They're very excited about it. By the way, it could have been Yoshka's boat because it did sink. And it belonged to a schlepper because a normal boat was made out of 2 different types of wood. This boat was made out of like, I think 24 different types of wood, which was a ride that it was patched and patched and patched. It probably got shipwrecked at the end. Anyway, who arba? Now, betray. 2 people were fighting over it. Hi, Amr Didiu. One fellow said it's mine. Hi, Amr Didiu. The other guy said, no, it's mine. Also, so one of them ran to Bezin because he was afraid the other guy would seize the ship and sell it, and he wouldn't ever be able to get his fair share. But Yomar Tifsua, he told Bezin, please seize the ship. Adamaisna Sahadi Didihi. Until I have an opportunity to present my edim and prove that it's mine, at least I want you to hold on to it. This once happened to me. I was suing a guy who was an Offen Neganev, and he was avoiding, and he didn't respond to the lawsuit on time. So I went to Tiny that now they have to issue a judgment against him. And the judge said, but that day he came. Oh, he showed up. Johnny came lately. Oh, I was busy. I was hanging with the hair. I'll be excused in the book. So they're going to give him time to respond to my lawsuit. So I told the judge, this guy's a Ganav Shibikanov. He's done this many times. He has still some assets that he hasn't liquidated yet. I'm asking to give you as much time as you want, provided that you deposit all of your assets with the court, and then there'll be assets when they have to sue you. So the judges here are stupid. And I remember I knew I had no chance of getting my ask because everyone told me the judge will always give him more time to respond, even though there's a danger that he'll disappear. So I figured if I'm going to go, I made a chalamoy trip out of it. I took all my kids to the hearing. I actually took all my kids to the hearing, sat them around the table. I said, here, this is how court works. At least I got something out of it. I got a chalamoy trip out of it. So I was suing him for about $15,000. I got about $500 worth of a chalamoy trip out of it. So the Messinas, and I didn't have to schlep and jump and climb. I was just sitting in a room. So it was kishmak. What? Of course he did. And of course I never was able to collect on it. And I looked up, this is his modus operandi. And I couldn't put a lien because it was in a Dapart building. I wasn't doing work for Dapart. It was a third party. So what is Allah? Tafsin and tafsin. Can we seize it or not? Are we allowed to seize a ship? Are we allowed to seize this to protect this guy for later? Rashbam tells us, what's the big deal? Seize it. The problem is if you seize it and then there's no proper raya, are we allowed to release it to an unknown scenario, to a called alam gover? And that was the problem. That's how the Rashbam learned the Gemara. Avu namar tavsinan. Yes, Bezdin would be typhus. What happened? That's what we were worried about. He never was able to bring aid. And now Bezdin has the ship. Amalahu Avkua. He told him, so I'll release the ship. There's no psak because nobody has aid him. The Kol Dalam Govar, and it'll go into a status quo of Kol Dalam Govar. So the question is, Mafkina loy mafkina. Rabbi Yehuda Amar loy mafkina. Rav Papa mafkina. Now, if you read the Gemara by itself, it sounds like the machlokes of Tafsinon and loy Tafsinon between Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda is completely independent of the machlokes between Rav Papa and Rav Yehuda of mafkina or not. So, but the Rashbam learns they're very much intertwined. So we'll see the Rashbam in a minute. Loy Tafsinon, Bezin will not seize the ship. But once they were Tavis, Loy Mafkinon, you will not take it away from them. No, Bezin will not be able to release it. Let's see the Heilige Rashbam. Arba Sinish Abinahar. Hayama Didihu. Neither of these two Balei Din were a Mukser. So there's no Amochi Mechavel Raya. Midlei Rami Allah. Mimasnisin the Shnai Mukser Metalis. So the first question that the Rashbam Antosh asks, why isn't this the same halacha of Shnai Moshe Medalos that you say al-Hoiku? Shezen not like makom shiyad megas. Shezen not like makom shiyad megas. Lemin called alam gavar came pishrach. It's the reason why is because they're not muhsik. Since they're not muhsik, you can't bring a raya for me. Tosfos asks in greater detail. Ma'ishna mishnayim makom talis. Dama bereish matzid yachloiku. So Tosfos has two terutzim. Mufarish Rabbeinu Tam. The oichsin shiny kiven sheshnei muhsakim ein lanu laniach yishiyigzel lo echad lechaveiroi the chashuv kilo nu yodin sheyesh lechelek l'shnei chelek. If each one is a muksuk, then we assume that each person has a chelek in it. So therefore, we cannot say called alam gavar because we're taking away from someone we know what he surely owns. Shechal davar yesh li lahamid becheskes mi shehu b'yodoi kedar min gabe naschad Bava davagav damar didi chatvi chashvin legazlan v'chayiv l'shalom kilu bor choice on nischa shalois shei muksuk. So whenever there's a muksik involved, that muksik is very, very proving. Because there's another territory. So that's number one. Tifsua, why was Bezin asked to seize it? Penyim karena, because I don't want to lose it completely. Right now, I grab the ship and say, please seize it. That doesn't make me to a muksik, because the Shiloh was already noilad. The entire came before I became a muksik. So therefore, I would never be able to benefit from being a muksuk here. So the problem here is, will Bezin hold on to it? Tafsin no tafsin. Zok the Rashba, mi lema, the tavsol of Bezin seizes it. Why would they not want to be typeset? Because if no edim end up being found, hadrina, they would have to give it back, umafkinan law, and they would release it. Kidemakara, just like it was before in the matzav of confusion. Well, but the real owner will have no loss of the tfisas bezin, because either he'll bring Edim and he'll get the whole thing, or he won't, and it'll be left in a suffix and he'll have a cold al megomer. What are we going to do if no Edim are found? Bezin already has it, and Bezin can no longer release it because we hold like the Shida that you don't release it because the Rishon will tell us soon because the Bezin can't release something into unknown. They only can release it with a clear psak. Now the real owner lost out because up until now he could have had a cold alam govar, and now he can't even have that. Svirlek or a papa. Why does Ravuna say tafsinon? It's totally in the next machlokes because the like a papa damar mafkinon. So there's no damage done. There's no risk for Bezin to seize it now. We don't like tafsinon mishum the svirlek lay mafkinon could look at me. The hilchach loy tafsinon the shema ze ein loy edim. Maybe this guy is lying. Maybe it's not his. He knows it's the other guys. He doesn't have edim, and he's tamalola. The shakran who, and you know what he wants to do? Okay, I won't get it, but you're not going to get it either. And he's going to get it locked up in the Bezin. When we call the call right to the Hafsa the Chaveira, the Me'ach the Tavse, once Bezin is Toivisit, Yoidea who the Sulam Mafkina. So could be the guy's mamash all life. Amalei Avkua, you could release it. The Chagoy, the Sram and Milsa, the Tavsinullah, Karafuna, why were they Toivisit? You know, if there was a Shaila, if they were allowed to release it, that means they were Toivisit. But if you hold it, you don't release, why were they Toivisit in the first place? So Rashbam says maybe for some reason they were Toivisit. Inami Shamu Shneimel Bezin, the Tavs of the Verko. If both parties agreed to give it to Bezdin, there everyone takes it. Sometimes you could bring a raya, you could be olam and din, you could be olam by grabbing it because you're stronger. They're not to be mafkrit. And just releasing it to the unknown is like being mafkrit. Meaning not to hold on to it forever. Or mafkinon, they could put it back into the same status that it was before they took it. So the halacha is loy tafsinon, as far as kol alam govar, there are those who learn that kol alam, the person who it belonged to, is going to be most mechazik to get it, and there's a little bit of method to the psak of kol alam govar, But the question is, does that mean for the rest of your life you have to be busy with it? Because I got it today. Does that mean you could sneak tomorrow and grab it away from me? If Kol Dalam Gavar is not a psak, so come to Rosh, it's in limbo. If it's limbo, I grab it today, maybe you grab it tomorrow. So there are Zod Rishon would tell us to know. Kol Dalam Gavar is not completely giving it up. It's a shtickle upside. Because the person who is stronger, that would likely be a ride that it was his. Once on the initial battle, one guy wins, he actually gets to keep it permanently, and he's considered the owner. Does not remain in limbo. Okay, I guess we'll stop here. I know I didn't finish the Amid, but I think I'll be able to catch up tomorrow. What do you think? We should have a good bench today.